Hello and a very warm welcome to the brand new edition of Policy Watch. I'm Kriti Mishra. Today we'll analyze the Chiller Star labeling program. India has launched an ambitious program to encourage the deployment of energy-efficient chiller systems in the country. The Chiller Star labeling program has been formulated by Bureau of Energy Efficiency. It envisages providing star rating in terms of energy performance. Initially, the program has been launched on voluntary basis and will be valid up to December 31st, 2020. Chillers are extensively used for space conditioning of buildings and for industrial process cooling applications. And to know more about the topic, I'm joined by Mr. Abhay Bakre, Director General, Bureau of Energy Efficiency, Ministry of Power, Mr. Anil Razdan, former Secretary, Ministry of Power, and Mr. Prafulla Pathak, President, Solar Energy Society of India. Welcome to Rajya Sabha Television, all of you. Mr. Bakre, let me commence the show with you. With the Chiller Star labeling program, it is estimated that more than 500 million units of electricity would be saved in the year 2019. Take us through the important highlights of this program.
As we all know, for many years that for air conditioning purpose, we have been using mainly the unitary AC systems. That means the window air conditioner, the split AC and similar distributed air conditioning systems. But for larger premises like banks, offices, shopping malls, even large hotels or even metro systems, we have started using centralized air conditioning system. They are working on the principles of chilled water system, and these are larger units providing air conditioning for a slightly bigger space. Now they are more efficient in terms of or as against the utilization of unitary systems like window AC or split AC. But with the higher demand or growth of air conditioned spaces in the coming years, it is necessary that these chiller units also should be given some kind of energy efficiency program or star labeling. So that's why Bureau started considering, and finally it was launched on 14th of September 2018 on the eve of World Ozone Day.
Right, sir. But how would you encourage the deployment of energy efficient chiller equipment that has wide industrial use?
Yeah, that's so far Bureau has been implementing the star labeling program. It started with very common household equipments like refrigerators, tube lights, then window ACs since 2009-10, and then thereafter many more equipments have been added: washing machine, color TV, transformers, motors, etc. Now, especially the equipments which are more used by the consumers, household consumers, the star labeling program has been quite popular, and so we observed that the consumers should be given a kind of information that how different equipments which are available in the market or which are manufactured and designed by different air conditioning vendors, how they are compared in terms of energy performance. Because not only the initial cost of the equipment is important, but at the same time these equipments which are used almost throughout the year, whether it's an office or a shopping mall or in a metro system, they should be energy efficient, so that on a long run the operating expense or the yearly energy bill should be optimized. So in that with that objective, we prepared this program that if a star rating is given based on the energy performance, so how is the difference between a star 1 or a star 4 or a star 5 equipment, so that the consumer can calculate that if he can purchase a 5-star or a 4-star centralized AC equipment or a chiller, commonly known as, how much electricity or energy bill he can save in a year or in a lifetime of say 5 years to 10 years.
So energy efficiency is critical for the growth of this industry. Yeah. Mr. Razdan, coming to you. India became one of the first countries to launch cooling action plan, and now we have this program. Take us through the importance and significance of this program in line with the Montreal Protocol that encourages depletion to prevent actually the depletion of ozone layer.
See, in India, this assumes greater importance because we are a hot country climatically, whereas the developed world, by and large, you see, was a cold world. They had taken a lot of care of space heating. In India, unfortunately, we abandoned our old architectural principles and had adopted, in fact, architectural designs which were more oriented and suited to those temperate climates. Now, so for us, it's a double whammy. Now, as global warming is taking place, we are also having this ozone depletion. On the other side, chemicals being released, which is affecting the ozone layer. We have boarded the bus late, but we are also going through a very strong development program economically. We have taken electricity now to every village in the country, every home virtually in the country, and we are giving people a chance to use electricity for their own use, for their comfort, for their business, for their work. In fact, when I had the privilege of serving the parent organization of the Bureau of Energy Efficiency, the Energy Management Center in 1998, 99, that time we tried to introduce the star labeling program, essentially to make it more a people-oriented program to educate them and not go by mere advertising, but go by real energy consumption and savings. I think it's taken almost 2 decades to make people fully aware of the star rating program and to make them feel, yes, they ought to be buying a certain class of star rated products. But what I find, unfortunately, is that the government is not giving adequate importance to star labeling. As Secretary Power, I had tried that the Finance Ministry should recognize star labeling and give a graded duty structure on star labeled products so that people are able to buy the right products initially, even at a better cost. Leave aside the lifetime cost of a product. So that, I think, the Finance Ministry in the country, the taxation authorities have to come on board, because the greatest growth in the energy sector has been coming through the building sector in the last few years. And in the future also, about 50% of the energy growth is going to come from energy demand in the energy sector, this in the building sector.
Right.
Now, that is why with increasing incomes, with larger urbanization, particularly more multi-storied buildings, lack of space, the device that Mr. Bakre has talked about, this device is going to prove more and more useful. We used to have buildings in India which had thick walls, which were insulating walls, air spaces in between, high ceilings. Now those are a thing of the past. We cannot have so much space. We have to make do with lesser space, more crowded spaces, which will mean more air conditioning. If we're moving towards an IT world, most IT devices operate in a temperature controlled space. So as we are moving, modernizing, getting, I should say, more industrialized, income levels going up, these devices, I think, are going to assume greater importance. Besides, of course, there are other factors also. You mentioned about the Montreal Protocol and others, where we have to take care of the kind of refrigerants that we are using, which are not causing chemical harm to the environment. But here specifically, I think we are really on an energy saving mode.
So these devices would assume greater importance. But you mentioned a very important point, and I'll take that to Mr. Bakre. 2 decades, that's a fairly long journey. Have you taken all the stakeholders on board now?
Yes. Most of the energy efficiency or energy consuming appliances have been covered in this program. We had extensive deliberations, discussions with the stakeholders, the consumers, and also that over the years, the program has become quite popular. The consumers have realized that this is actually a better proposition to purchase energy efficient appliances rather than purchasing a low cost but inefficient appliance in their household, because they have to pay a large amount of energy bill throughout next 4 to 5 years or even more than that. So that way the consumers have responded very well. The manufacturers have responded very well, because now they are coming out with better technology, more efficient appliances for the consumer. So it's a win-win situation for the consumer as well as for the vendors that the energy efficiency is improving in the market and the markets are getting transformed.
So it's a win-win situation for all.
Yeah.
But talking about environmental benefits now, Mr. Pathak, it is said that through this program, there will be CO2 emission reduction of 3.5 million tons. What are the environmental and most importantly, economic benefits of this program?
See, when we are planning to reduce the CO2 emission, definitely it is going to help on environmental aspect. And on economic aspect, I would like to put here that when you are looking at the energy efficiency, means you are trying to use whatever the equipments you have, maybe chillers, at a best possible efficiency. And when you achieve that best possible efficiency, means you are reducing the losses. And when you reduce losses, when you are getting an efficiency, definitely whatever the economics that is in between, you are at the other end, on the beneficial end. So on both the aspects, on the environmental aspect and on the economic aspects, this is definitely going to benefit everyone who is looking at this seriously.
So it will benefit all the stakeholders. Mr. Razdan, the Indian chiller market is estimated at 1 million ton. That was in 2017, and it is expected to grow at 3.6%. Looking at this growth trajectory, what are the ways to promote green innovation in this sector?
As I say, you see, once you have identified that yes, this is a critical component in the whole gamut of not only energy use, energy conservation, but also climate action. Because the lesser energy you consume, the lesser CO2 emissions you are going to emit. And I say ultimately, when you are going to cater to a middle or a lower middle income segment of the world's economy, I'm talking of a global thing, we have to bring these people into better living conditions, more equity, and produce before them goods which, like say the LED bulb, its predecessor CFL, which has reduced the household electrification bills drastically. And when you are going for, you see, universal electrification, you are inviting people to use more electricity rather than other means of economic activity or whatever it is. So if in the use of electricity, you can reduce consumption and provide comfort also. So you are playing a very important role in making people's lives happier and easier. Earlier, the West, you see, with so many cold months, its productivity was much higher because it had heated its workspaces, it had lighted its workspaces.
Yes.
Whereas in India, being a hot country, we had not taken adequate care of our working population. If the working conditions, whether in offices, factories, homes, are better, I think efficiency, human efficiency and productivity is going to see an increase. And that would be a turning point perhaps in the shift of global economy to the developing world.
So transition to green energy. Probably Mr. Pathak can also add his information and his perspective on green innovation in this sector.
See, as rightly pointed out, the thermal comfort is important. So, what are the conditions of our country? If you look at, we are at a hot zone. So, definitely we have to maintain a condition which is comfortable to whosoever in that area, whether he is working or whether it is he's in office or he is in commercial organizations or in industrial sector. So, in that context, if we implement these type of the efforts which are taking out, which are giving you the labeling, and because of that there are star ratings. So if you go for the star ratings, definitely that is going to improve efficiency, and when you have improved efficiency, then all these losses we are reducing, and because of that the effects which you are getting, they are definitely going to help your green energy sector.
You've talked about thermal comfort, but experts have raised concern on the benchmark of thermal comfort.
Yes, see, there can be a difference between what is exactly the thermal comfort, but in my opinion, it is that point where whosoever is there, who is walking in that particular area, he has to have a comfortable situation wherein the productivity or the deliverables has to be at its best.
Right. Talking about manufacturers now, Mr. Bakre, what are the advantages to the manufacturers if they achieve, say, a 5-star label?
Yeah, first thing is that being a 5-star equipment and the way the consumers have responded well, and now the consumers believe that going for a 4-star or 5-star equipment is more beneficial than purchasing a low-cost equipment. So manufacturers always try to come out with the good models, high-selling model, and they try to promote such products so that the consumers are also attracted. So in that way, this policy or this program, which has been well received by the consumers, give encouragement to the manufacturers to come out much better equipment and better technology. And now recently, last year in 2018, the inverter AC has been made mandatory. It is again a remarkable step, because right now when the about 8% of India's population, 6 to 8%, they are using household air conditioners, which is expected to grow, say, up to 20% in coming 10 to 12 years. In that way, the manufacturers are quite excited. They are trying to come out with better technology for inverter ACs, and the sale of inverter AC has increased, which are very high efficient and save a lot of energy bill for the consumers. So that way, the manufacturers are quite excited and they come out with better models in the market every season.
And there's another dimension, and that is of registration. How do you plan to provide a seamless process of registration for the manufacturers?
Yeah, that's a really good question. That we have done a lot of consultation, and finally the entire process has been made online. There is no now hassle or etc. There is no papers involved. Everything has been made online. Any difficulty which is faced by the manufacturer, sometimes they believe that the test reports they are submitting, because there is no new test required depending on their product test, which is done as per the standards of BIS or any other thing, and from the recognized laboratory they can upload, and within a month or even less than that, we are able to give the registration, and they can immediately use the star label. So the entire process has been made very easy and very user friendly for the registered vendors.
So the entire process has been simplified, it is online and it is user friendly.
Yeah.
Talking about another aspect, and that is of end users, Mr. Razdan, the basic premise of any policy to succeed is that the creation of awareness among the end users. How do we create that awareness among end users for transition towards clean and green energy?
There are two aspects to this question. One is, you see that in elitist thinking, that I want to use a star labeled product, I want to be avant-garde, I want to use the right thing, this is the most energy efficient product because it gives me a certain status in its use. That was one of the objectives in the beginning, and sometimes a marketing tool in the more affluent societies, this is normally a tool. But I think realistically speaking, in a country like India, where we are still well below the world economic average earning, it has to be the cost of the lifetime cost of the equipment. I think that has to be emphasized. And I would say particularly in the commodity that we are discussing today, there are greater chances of its penetration, because this is going to be used largely in industrial or commercial spaces. And there you have the advantage of having well-qualified architects, designers, who can give you the lifetime costs of maintenance of a building. And I think this profession of energy managers, which is now also taking root, the consciousness must come that you have to consult an energy manager before you install devices, because that is what is going to give you the maximum energy benefit and the greatest economic comfort. Now this comes through, as I said, through architects, through energy managers, and through public appreciation, through communication. Now, all these factors combined, I think, hopefully will take root. But you see, the global figures with the International Energy Agency, I think, published the beginning of this year. They said probably 30% homes use air conditioners globally. And that's a very, very high figure for a country like India, as Mr. Bakre pointed out.
Yes.
We are still in the single digit space. But with the most rapid urbanization coming about, space air conditioning is going to assume very great importance. And I think like the Griha labeling program, you see, for housing, for buildings, we have different climatic zones. Now, all these will require that the building sanctioning authorities at the local level, not only the architects, they're conscious of these developments and insist that you use more energy efficient devices to reduce your energy consumption, to also reduce global warming and CO2 emissions in the overall perspective. And this can only come through education, right from schools, colleges, institutions, and through public media and debates like the present one that you are having.
Thank you so much. You've mentioned that education is, of course, very important, but you made a very pertinent point of cost, and I'll take that to Mr. Pathak. Mr. Pathak, for a price-sensitive country like ours, how do we balance cost implications while treading on the path of clean energy?
Very good point you are taking. Basically, we are cost conscious people. Whenever we go in the market, we always look for the cost. And in that context, prima facie, it may appear that the star labeled products which are in the market, they are at a high cost. But that is the capex, that is the capital investment you are doing. You may face it high because you are getting a higher efficiency product. So for that you need to pay. But in the long run, if you look at its operational or maintenance or other costs, so when you have a good energy efficient quality product in your hand at a higher cost, definitely that will go for a longer duration and it will give you the longer run benefits in operation. So in my opinion, yes, there is a need to educate or make aware the people in large that though it appears that it's a high cost because it is a star labeled, but if you look at its life, if you look at its performance, if you look at its comfort and other things which you are getting, or efficient and intelligent, now artificial intelligence we are talking much. So that type of specifications are included in these type of products, and when you have all these things, so I am very sure that if you calculate in totality, you will find that at a later stage of some 6-7 years, you will find that you are using this machine at a free cost.
Right.
So if that is the case, one should not look at the cost.
So we need to analyze the long-term benefits.
Yes, and when you are looking for something good, something specified or energy efficient, then something which is as per the specifications. And see, there are a lot of advancement in technology that has come in these years. So all those technology advancements are included in these type of products. And when these things are included, then definitely the cost may go, but that is the investment cost, capex. But in the long run, I am strongly in the favor of such type of labeling and star ratings, because that is going to give me in the future, that is paying to me in the future. So one must go for the such type of equipments. And
so long run benefits,
yes,
and of course that will also ensure sustainability.
Yes.
I'll give you the last word, Mr. Bakre. Yes, Mr. Razdan, you wanted to make a point.
Would just
Yes.
like to make a point. You see
Yes.
that theoretically speaking and conceptually speaking, what we are saying is very true lifetime costs of a device. But I think you see what is very important in a poor country is initial cost of investment. And I think it brings me back to a program, Bachat Lab Yojana, which I introduced in 2007. Now the LEDs are very expensive that time, the CFLs were less expensive. The incandescent bulb was costing only about 20-25 rupees. And my mandate to the Bureau of Energy Efficiency that time was that you have to produce a bulb in the masses, which will be no economic choice but to go for the more efficient and the affordable one. So I think the government has to give concessions, duty concessions to all star label products in the escalated scale of their star.
So
the
basically,
government must come forth.
incentives must be provided.
So that the initial cost of investment comes down. It's a clear signal to the households, to the investors who want to buy the equipment that look here, government also wants you to buy this.
Right, point well taken. Mr. Bakre, last 30 seconds to you.
Yeah.
Right now, this program has been launched on a voluntary basis. Do you
Yes.
plan to make it mandatory in the near future?
See, the programs are made mandatory depending on the response and depending on the technology available. But the two messages we want to convey is that from this program, that as Mr. Rajan has said, the energy conservation building codes have been launched for residential as well as commercial buildings. So in coming years, the next 10 years, the commercial buildings will be constructed, if they are constructed, so that the insulation itself is very efficient, so that they can reduce the capacity. And over and above, if these chiller and the other related equipments on space conditioning, where the total demand is going to be more than 5 times from now onwards, can be optimized or more efficient equipments are used, so that this demand can come down from 5 times to 3 times in terms of energy. So in that process, the response from consumers, the authorities who will be purchasing this equipment is quite vital, and that will tell us, or that will make us to decide whether in future we should take it to voluntary system or we can convert into mandatory one.
So efficiency is the key. On that note, gentlemen, thank you so much for joining us. It is important to optimize energy performance of chillers. So that's all we had for you in this edition of Policy Watch. Thanks for watching and stay tuned to Rajya Sabha Television.